adding markups to your bid. In EasyEst, you can turn off the left-hand view bar here. However, if it's on, the markups are reached right from this link here. If it's not on, you can reach it both from the bid menu and change markups, or from the price book menu and markups here. For additional information, you can right mouse click anywhere on the screen, go down and left click on explanation. That'll bring up our help based on the markup list where you were at. And this will explain how things are calculated and how everything works together. Also, there's some additional links down here for the cost type markups, also how calculation is done between cost and price. There are 3 levels of markups. The item level, which has a percent on an individual line item in the estimate. There is a modifier percent, which can be a positive or negative number, and it could be applied to any of the kinds of cost in any of the items. The second is what we call the class category. In other words, all material items are marked up together, and this figure only applies to material, and the same with labor, equipment, sub, so forth. The last level is global. It is over the entire accumulation of values up to the bid total cost here, in this case the 42,000 figure here. So anything here is globally marked up by these percentages. This percent is marked up against this value right here. There is a little caveat we'll discuss in a moment. This video is not intended to be a detailed explanation of how everything works. For now, we're briefly going to overview the Apply To column. And the Apply To column is most effective in the bottom half where we have global markups. In the case where we have a -A, what this is doing is any percent here is not being added to the allowance $1,500 that we see here. However, we can click in this overhead amount here and click the list button and say we don't want overhead only to go on material and labor. We don't want it on equipment, sub, or anything else. Just for our example here, hit the use button, and now that 10% is only applied to the labor amounts and the material amounts, not to anything in equipment subcontract. Or allowance is now having it on it because we didn't mark that one. The last thing we're going to discuss for now is the add compound. This can be switched when you're in any row by the spacebar. Toggling the spacebar back and forth will make it add or compound. We're going to look at the bottom section to understand this. We have a base amount that we're working with, and we're saying we have 10%, which is 3387 of this amount right here, is the percent upon the 42,000. However, if we compound as we are in the second one, then this 10% is this amount plus this amount to equal this amount. In other words, this is the 10% of these two added together. If I change that, you'll see this figure is going to change here. If you'll watch the figure when I change it, you'll see how it dropped down. And so that's a little bit, you can play around with this add compound and see how it works, but it is another way of changing the way calculations are done on the markup view.